Chapter 7, Inflation. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the problems with the way we calculate CPI and thus inflation. Because the Consumer Price Index is the main way that governments around the world calculate their price inflation, there's problems with the way we calculate it. If you remember, we use this market basket of goods that have been thought up by the government, and then we find prices, and then we calculate inflation from a CPI. Well, the first major problem is substitution bias. Because we go in and we pre-decide which items are in the basket, and they also determine how many units of each item a family will use within a certain measuring period. The problem is that, as we know, substitution occurs. So if you go to the grocery store and let's say that apples, you were going to buy apples, but apples for some reason are really uh, expensive today, then people substitute with something similar that's cheaper. So they might buy an orange or they might buy grapes for their family. People can substitute with canned items as opposed to fresh. So as prices rise, particularly as prices rise quickly, or if prices get to a point that are higher than what the consumer is willing to pay, people substitute with things that are cheaper. But remember, the market basket has predetermined the items in there and how many units, and they don't automatically adjust that as consumers do. So when consumers substitute towards cheaper goods, the CPI calculates the apples at now the very expensive price, and this makes price inflation look much higher than it really is. The second issue with CPI is introduction of new goods. Because the government determines what's in the basket before the measuring period starts, if some brand new product is put into the market during that measuring period, it's not in the basket yet because the government doesn't have any past calculations on how much or how many units families buy. They don't want to predict wrong. So the very first time something hits the market, it's not in the basket. The other thing that happens with new goods is as a new good comes in and competes with other things, we now have a wide variety of things to choose from. And that's what competition does. It creates more variety that also makes sure that the price of the product stays low while the quality goes up. So consumers are finding more and more products that fit their needs better, and that makes our money go further. We're getting a better product for the money that we're spending because we had more items to choose from. The third problem is quality. Remember, CPI and the market basket only care about the price of the product. Improvements in the quality of the product are not part of CPI. So it could be that the price has gone up, but the quality also went up, or the price stayed the same and the quality went up. Either way, if we're getting more quality for our money is going further and we're getting more value for the money that we're spending. But quality is really hard to measure. Sometimes consumers assume that if a price is more expensive than a competitor, it therefore must be of better quality. But that's not always true. And in fact, over time, the price of one product after adjusting for inflation generally goes down. If you think about the very first time a flat screen TV was created, they were, $2, $3, $4, $5,000. But today you can get a nice flat screen TV for $500. And that flat screen TV is of better quality than the $3,000 one back, 20 years ago. So all of these problems added together basically mean that the way the government is calculating CPI generally overstates the quality of living. The Bureau of Labor Statistics can make some technical adjustments to this, but there's probably a better way to calculate inflation. Most people predict that inflation in CPI is probably about a 0.5% too high. And that's important because, and remember, inflation is only typically between 1% and 3% a year. So a 0.5 point difference is a really significant problem.